Hello and welcome. You're watching Head to Head on UATV, and I'm Oles Gajok. In the end of this week, first Ukrainian Defense Hackathon concludes here in Kyiv, and for 5 days, IT specialists from Ukraine's security and defense sector, together with NATO experts, have been working hard to improve the capabilities of Ukraine's command and communication system. To talk more about this, we welcome to the studio today Dr. Michael Street, NATO Communications and Information Agency Innovation Manager. Hello, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Street, first Ukrainian hackathon is being held in Kyiv. What ideas among those presented seem the most progressive for you?
It's been really exciting, really interesting to see the ideas that the teams are coming up with. We've had a focus for all of the challenges in this hackathon on how to improve communication and collaboration, or technology to improve communication and collaboration between different branches of defence forces, and to look at the way that the teams are approaching that, how they're taking some of the systems that they're already working with and expanding them to make them able to communicate and share information better with other groups is fantastic. It's been really exciting to watch these young teams with their enthusiasm and their skill get to work on some difficult technical challenges.
Well, we were introduced with what the first Ukraine's Defense Hackathon means by one of the co-organizers, Oksana Horbach, and she said really interesting things that I would like you to comment on, so we have a soundbite to watch.
Okay, right.
The practical challenge is that State Border Guard or Armed Forces of Ukraine can see a tank and each of them reports back to their center, and then they report back to the command of the National Security Council, and they see not one tank but 3 tanks, because all of them have been separately reported by these separate agencies, which is ridiculous, but that is actually what's happening right now. So what we are talking about right now is that while we are in actually active combat actions, we need to be able to make sure that the operations we are leading are, coordinated and cooperated with each of the agencies in defense and security sector.
Can these IT specialists tackle this issue?
Yes, absolutely.
This particular situation, like having 3 tanks.
Yes, and it all comes down to how different systems used by different agencies, different branches of the Defence Force share their information to report up. And it's a similar challenge to the one that NATO faces between different NATO nations, how they share information in their IT systems, and how you avoid the kind of problems that were just described there by Oksana.
Yeah, but NATO has 29 member states. How did they develop this kind of joint command, some kind of platform, or what is that?
Yes, yeah. A lot of it starts with standards. So we have common ways that every nation addresses these things, common ways to report whether they've seen a tank, whether they've seen some incident, whether there's a risk of a natural disaster. So having common ways to describe those kind of things, so that when that information gets shared and collated, people will recognise that they're talking about the same thing, and it makes it easier to deconflict that information and also to consolidate it, so we get a better, more accurate picture of what's really happening, rather than some of the confusion which Oksana was talking about.
Yeah, just to escape some confusion. Yeah. That's true. And so this is going to be the main issue of this hackathon in Ukraine. It's going to be very useful, of course, because of the ongoing situation in our country. But who is consulting these Ukrainian IT specialists? If I understand correctly, those IT specialists, they represent all the security, like the security and defense units and bodies that are existing in Ukraine.
Yes. Yeah, so we have teams from the different defence organisations, which you've just cited nationally, and they're competing in the hackathon. So they're bringing their expert knowledge from their organisations. But we also have 2 teams, one from NATO, one from the Ukraine, they're not competing in the hackathon, but they're providing support and facilitation. So they're able to share their expertise about IT systems, their expertise about NATO protocols and NATO standards, so that information is available to all of the groups who are competing in the hackathon. So we get a really good flow of information from the IT specialists in these different organisations, both in the Ukraine and in NATO, so that everybody is able to build up their make use of that extra knowledge and build up better solutions to the challenges that we've set.
And how are the ideas being evaluated? Are there some certain criteria?
We do. We have some very clear criteria that are explained at the start of the hackathon. We're looking at 5 areas. Firstly, how do the solutions to the challenges, how do they address the requirements that we set in the challenge? So are these things going to really make a difference to people on the ground who are using these IT systems? We're also looking at how innovative the solutions are. So are the teams using the latest technology or some really imaginative, innovative ideas to solve these problems? We're looking at how simple and scalable the ideas are. Sometimes you can have a technical solution which does work, but it becomes very difficult to then repeat that, to extend that solution at very large scale. So simplicity and scalability are another really key area. We're also looking at how it improves the interoperability between the different agencies and different organisations. And then the final thing is how clearly they can present their work to the judges and to the audience. Because the really good ideas, if they can't be communicated and the end users don't appreciate what the value is for them, then it makes it a bit more difficult to get this new technology into the hands of users where it starts to make a difference.
Interesting. And what are the requirements of these challenges? Could you give us at least one, for instance?
Yes, it's about how to share. We have 3. One is looking at how to improve the security, communication security between different agencies. One is looking at how we share information so that it allows different agencies and users in those agencies to collaborate better. So it's all about sharing information at a very real, practical level to allow different organisations to collaborate better so they have a better picture of what's going on. They're able to support one another in a much more effective manner.
Well, as far as I know, last year, the reason that Ukraine is holding this national hackathon is because of the good result performed last year at NATO hackathon in London. Yes. There were 3 nominations, and the Ukrainian IT specialist won 2 of them with golden medals, and they took silver in the 3rd nomination. So, therefore, the question was raised: should the NATO hackathon be held in Ukraine? Should the next one be held in Ukraine? What's the latest on that?
Well, I'd like to start by saying we were so impressed with the teams who've competed in both NATO hackathons in London last year and in Montenegro earlier this year. The knowledge, the skill, the enthusiasm, just the dedication that they've brought has really added to the NATO event. Certainly the success that those teams have achieved last year and this year has been a real inspiration. In terms of where the next hackathons will be hosted, this is a new activity for NATO comparatively. It was the brainchild of NATO's Allied Command transformation, so it's an idea of how we can speed up transformation in certain parts of NATO and nations. We've only held 2 so far. But now that we've had success, we've had interest, we've seen what these hackathons do, what people get out of it. There's a lot of competition now for hosting the honour of hosting the next one. But certainly NATO and an Allied Command transformation, the agency will be looking at where would be suitable locations. And certainly from what we've seen this week, the environment, the enthusiasm that the teams have brought, but also the environment. For the location of the hackathon this week, the facilities that people have got, just the atmosphere that's created, it's a really innovative, imaginative environment. So it really does help foster the kind of creative ideas that we're looking for in a hackathon.
As far as I remember, in this interview that I had with Oksana Horbach, one of the organizers of this Ukraine's hackathon, she mentioned that probably Ukraine's first national hackathon is some kind of a CV or some kind of presentation. How can Ukraine handle this kind of event? So then NATO experts can evaluate whether it's worth to hold NATO hackathon here or not. So could you share maybe some feedback? Well, you shared yours. Could you share some feedback of your colleagues?
I think all of the NATO colleagues at every level have been really impressed with what we've seen this week.
So there is a lot of chance that... Well, I know that I cannot maybe really expect any accurate answer to this question, but...
We're participating and supporting the National Hackathon because it makes a lot of sense in terms of some of the ideas and the concepts and the vision of support from the Trust Fund and other activities which Gerard was talking about. So we're not here to assess the ability of the Ukraine to support to host a national hackathon.
Okay.
That said, it's impossible for us not to be influenced by the support that we've seen, the environment that we've seen, the sort of enthusiasm and commitment that's been shown. So certainly it will be something which is difficult to forget when NATO's looking for future locations to hold the hackathon in.
That's flattering. So you're satisfied with the level of organization? Well, let's hope that the ideas presented are going to be the same, innovative and satisfying for Ukraine and for NATO as well. Well, thank you so much for this interesting conversation, and thank you for visiting us in our studio.
Okay. Thank you very much.
That was Dr. Michael Street, NATO Communications and Information Agency Innovation Manager. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more with UATV.